there, it did a lot of good because it opened my eyes to things.
Okay.
But this sort of getting into the science of my disorder, illusion, and I caught myself thinking, you deserve to be sick because of all of these things that you've been through. And
people realize that we need forgiveness for ourselves just as much as we forgive those who have wronged us. And also asking for forgiveness from the people that we have wronged. But I think that last piece of the puzzle, which is the self.
Yes, that's the hardest.
Yeah, because I think we've all at one point, at least I would say for me, that I've neglected this body, I've neglected this me. Can you think that is something you can identify also?
Oh, for sure. Where it was physical things that I had put into my body, emotional baggage, things that I had thought toward myself. At one point, I was even cutting myself. I was harming myself. And whenever you have done all of these things that you know the people who are closest to you you wouldn't be proud talking about those things. It would be out of character for you to be acting that way. Then it's the hardest to forgive yourself.
Because I look at you now, right? It's funny, you don't look like that person that you describe. I don't see that about you here now. You look so put together and beautiful. This person that I get to see her every day. I get to work with her every day.
I love this girl.
And so what kind of tools did you use for you to even be sitting here and doing this podcast with me?
Well, I think the biggest thing at first is to put yourself in a place where you can be aware. Create space for yourself where you slow down and where you can capture thoughts.
Okay. What did you do for that? How did you slow down?
I slowed down I stopped killing myself in the gym.
Great. I remember you were saying that, Yes.
I stopped turning my sadness into anger. I allowed myself to feel through the pain.
Okay. Just part of the process,
I started recognizing how powerful prayer is, making time for that, surrendering things that I was trying to grip onto that were no longer serving me, and learning the power of also worship or gratitude.
Gratitude. Yes.
And also being in a group of people where you can share things on a deeper level. There's power in being able to be vulnerable enough to get that stuff out so that you can heal from it.
Why do you think that helps so much? Community. Because I was in the mindset that I didn't need anybody. When I was going through my own struggle, that I didn't need anybody. But in truth, I actually did. Especially now that we're here in this type of work that we do, right? Community is so important. Why do you think that there is value in community and that there is healing in group settings or community?
Oh, for so many reasons. Because you gain things whenever other people share their journeys, but you're not bearing this burden alone anymore.
You're not in isolation?
Yep.
Okay. Did you feel isolated when you were going through even though you come home to your family?
Yes. Whenever you're not able to you feel like you have to harbor it yourself. You don't want to burden others. You don't want to burden others. You don't want to bother them with your struggles. And sometimes it's hard to even open up about things that are really wounding you, especially when you can't quite put words to it. But when you're in a group, especially with people who have come from similar backgrounds, similar struggles, and they can relate to you on a deeper level, so you don't feel judged sharing, and you just get it out. Of course, it's hard at first, but once you rip it off like a Band-Aid, that's what really helps the healing process start to unfold.
Yeah. And I think also we're not meant to live this world, in isolation.
Not at all.
Because I know that there's a lot of people out there struggling in silence, and struggling in isolation, and they feel abandoned.
Yeah.
And maybe perhaps our community here in Houston doesn't have enough accessible community to form a support or network for the things that the things that we go through in life.
Yeah.
Life sometimes can be tough, and and I'm speaking from experience because I don't have family here in Houston, but I've throughout the years I learned to develop friendships, but even then my friendships are very, a very small circle of people whom I trust really, but through my struggle I shut the world out, I think
that's our tendency, right?
My tendency is to cave in and not ask for help, which was a lesson in and of itself. It's hard for me to ask for help.
Yes, because it's hard for you to reach out whenever you feel like, oh, I need to perfect myself first. I need to get myself all put together in this perfectly knit person.
Yes.
But the reality of it is this is no one-stop destination. We're always gonna have to go through struggles and trials and pain.
It's part of life. We disappoint people and we get disappointed. So how can we then manage that kind of stress, which is gonna happen? And how are you doing now? How are you managing, the stress now?
Well, now I think what has changed so much is my perspective of things, where I see the beauty now in a struggle. I see the beauty in challenges because I know deep down inside I have this lasting joy and I have peace that can push me to where no matter what we face, if we have the faith to know that we're gonna make it out okay, and that this is gonna push us toward our purpose. I really do believe that pain can either make us bitter or better. And if we allow it to, then it can make us bitter. But if we heal.
And I like what you said, by the way. I wanna emphasize that your pain, you can either use it it can either make you better or make you bitter. I love that.
That's a quote. I don't know who said it, but my mom says it all the time too.
But it is actually true, because it is a choice. It's a choice. I believe it's a choice because it's about your perspective, and you're choosing how that pain affects you.
Yes.
Right?
And you get to choose to even let things go. Even if you receive a diagnosis, or if you receive something that you've just accepted as your identity. That was a big thing I struggled with, even with my eating disorder. I also had the body dysmorphia a bit, that not everyone goes through that, where you look at yourself and you see yourself in the mirror. Everyone else is telling you you're losing weight, you're thin, you look great, whatever. But for me, I see it's like looking in a funhouse mirror. And even recently, not until I went through this healing group thing, I realized that I had just accepted that as part of my identity. I had said, okay, this is just biologically the way I'm wired. I just have to live with it. And it was standing in the way of bits of my healing, because then I would still push myself in the gym because I wanted to continue maintaining a certain image that was probably standing in the way of my overall health. And it wasn't until I got to a point where it was me saying, this is no longer who I am. Maybe I can dare to have the faith to say, I can let this go. I can release it, and it doesn't have to be a part of me anymore.
Okay. And so you're I kind of want to summarize the tools that you have done or that you have used in your healing process. Number one, you stopped killing yourself at the gym. You recognized that enough. You became
You pointed
aware.
that out in me too.
Yes.
You said you're gonna walk.
I remember when you came into my office, you know, the first time, and I said, I can tell you're a very driven woman. You know, I recognized that immediately in you. And I'm very glad that you actually slowed down and not killing yourself in the gym anymore. Because at one point, if you're highly chronically stressed, even exercise can exacerbate that stress.
Yes.
The exercise becomes a stress as well, added on, right? Especially if you're, depending on the timing of the day also, when you work out. So you were working out at night? Wow, way to boost your cortisol at night.
Way to go, health coach.
And inhibiting your melatonin, which you need at night, right? So that you can sleep better.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you recognize that. And then you also recognized prayer as one of the tools, spirituality, and how it helps you heal, which is completely powerful. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And then you also recognize the power of community. You use that for yourself so that it helps you, you know, somehow in a way come out of your head, and in a way learning from others on how to deal with whatever they're going through. It doesn't even have to be exactly the same as what you're going through, but we're all in this boat together. Everyone is going through something.
Yes.
As long as you're alive, you're going to be going through something.
That's life.
That's life, right? And so, you know, exposing yourself, and to me, I believe it's brave. It is very brave and very encouraging. Even if you were hurting, you recognize enough for yourself that you need the support of other people.
Exactly.
And you don't know any of these people, did you?
No.
They're strangers.
It was scary at first to be vulnerable and to share.
Sure.
But I was so ready for change. I was so ready for it.
And in the end, when you attended the community or the group setting in your church, did you find that there are actually people who supported you?
Oh, for sure.
And in a non-judgmental way? No one judged you? Or?
Nobody judged me, because we were all there for this need for healing, for this wanting to receive this type of healing. And so the more and more that other people started opening up, then suddenly you realize, oh, I've struggled with that too. Or that's something that I'm kind of going through as well. And then you realize, oh, maybe there's a specific reason why we're all in here in this group setting. Yes,
yes. Anything else you'd like to add that you have since started using, you know, in your process? Because I think we're all still in the process of healing ourselves. Yeah. It continues.
I think I would also say, so at the beginning I mentioned how I would write Bible verses or quotes.
Yes.
And at the time I hadn't gone through digging and getting to the root of why can I not be anxious? Why can I not still my mind? Why do I not trust God? But once you get through that, then I really do think that if you're starting your day with whatever motivational thing it is for you, whatever truth that is for you, if you start your day with that, but you really apply it to your heart and you allow your mind and your heart to go there, to say, okay, if I'm struggling with this, let's take the time to get to the root of why I can't overcome this, or why do I still feel anxious? Instead of just having cognitive dissonance where you're speaking something over yourself and saying, I'm not anxious, I'm not scared, but really on the inside, you're feeling tense and anxious and scared. Your body's gonna say, that does not compute.
No, you can't lie to yourself.
You cannot lie to
your
yourself.
cells. No, your cells are always listening.
Yeah. But if you go through like this healing process and you then speak these things over your life, but you get to the root of reasons why you might not be able to feel that way, then I think that those are really, really powerful tools that you can use.
Cool. Is there anything else you'd love to share or like to add? Anyone, you know, who's going through the same?
I would just say, whenever it comes to, I think, mental health in general, there's a lot of misconceptions out there about how to treat it.
There is, yes.
And I think a lot of the time, especially,
but we're changing that.
We are changing that.
We just want to let you know we are changing that. Yeah.
And I love it because coming here even connected the dots at an even greater scheme for me. And for that, I'm very thankful for Dr. Ron and all he's doing.
Yes, absolutely.
But I think if you are struggling with mental health, then know that there is a big organic or physical component involved, but there's also a really big mindfulness, spiritual, and emotional component.
That's right.
So you can heal from this.
Yes.
You have to want it, but you can't heal one without the other because they're so interconnected.
And the power of why, right? It pulls people beyond, you know, what they see here. You know, when you have a why, and I think that's important to understand. Why are you here? What's your purpose? You know, asking those important questions, right? Not just, you know, this is not a big enough why for me, and I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna give a good example. I want to lose weight because I'm going to my best friend's wedding. That may be like 5 months.
That's not gonna be
not
sustainable.
Enough why. No, that's because after that, you're gonna go through this short term, and then after the wedding, you basically return back to your old habits, and then boom, you may actually find yourself weighing more than in the beginning. So your why has to be greater and deeper, I believe.
And a lot of the time it's outside of yourself. It's something much bigger. And if you do keep that in mind though, then I think that's where vision comes into play, where then, okay, I recognize this as my calling, so therefore nothing can stand in my way.
Right. And keeping that focus. No matter what.
Having perseverance.
Yes.
Even through struggles.
And that's why here in the clinic we often talk about, you know, involving the entire body, the mind-body connection. Right. You know, through food, nutrition is actually part of mind-body. But once you're aware, once you understand your own triggers, right, you will notice that you will take better care of yourself.
Oh, for sure.
Once you become aware, because that's the process that I'm seeing while you're talking. When you recognize those triggers, when you realize that this is what's happening, you're identified every single trigger that can possibly, you know, may not be serving you anymore, right? Those triggers. You started to adjust little by little. You stopped killing yourself at the gym. So you backed away from that because you became aware that this is the exercising, overtraining your body, you know, to the point where you're burning through your cortisol. You realize that that's not serving you well.
Finally, you have to let go of some things, and that's hard because it's things that we're gripping onto. It comes to the root of control.
Control.
And the more we try to control, the more out of control we seem to spin, because we're holding on to these things that really we should be surrendering them. We should be letting them go.
Cool.
Well,
So
that's my story.
Yes, this is basically episode 2, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Brett.
You know, for being here, and I'm glad that you're here today. You know, and you're not going through that tough time anymore. But would you say that it has taught you a lot about yourself?
Oh, for sure.
Did you take on a different identity for yourself?
I feel
Can
like
you say a little bit more about
it
sorry.
Has,
you know, I just needed to know. I'm so curious.
It has just totally At first, it's almost like it made me angry because I felt like I could never totally return to the way I was before.
Yeah.
But now it's taught me so many things on this journey. It's made me grow in so many ways, and it's brought me to where I am. I wouldn't be working here if it were not through that phase of my life.
Because you can understand pain from your own experience, and what it's like to be in your head and not be able to get out right away, you know, and understanding that process.
And that's what we'll be covering in future episodes, right?
Yes, that's right. We'll be talking a lot about food and, you know, best foods for brain, memory, and improving the immune functions, but also other habits, you know, that will give you more focus. Because I really think that in order for us to attain the goal that we want in life, it doesn't matter what that is. Everybody's going to have their own idea of, you know, what their ultimate goal is, you know. In order to get there, you must have focus. You know, and you're going to be challenged, of course, as you reach your goals, whether it be a health goal, financial goal, or whatnot. You will be challenged as you make yourself there, as you get there, you know. So how you maintain focus, there are a set of tools already and techniques that this clinic is actually offering on how you get there. Right?
And that we wish we had, right?
I wish I had known the tools when I was going through my own struggle. I know of one at that time. I was using Tai Chi and Qigong, and then later on I was able to get into meditation. But if, you know, in my younger years, which I had also a lot of, you know, pain and struggle, I wish I had known these things, right? So, but here in the clinic, we're offering these tools, and I hope you come and visit us. Jill, you're awesome.
You're awesome.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you guys for listening.
Very inspiring. I'm so grateful that you're my co-host in this podcast. So we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Right, on the Invisible Reality.
The Invisible Reality
Podcast.